So I don't have any uh, cool slides to show or videos, and no cool instruments to share either. I just have a few stories about some personal experiences I went through to kind of explain why I'm here today. To set some context, I thought I'd start from the beginning. I was born and raised in a small town in Virginia, which is in the southern part of the United States. My family was the only Asian family in my town for a number of years, so we stood out. And not a day went by when someone didn't tease me or say something about me looking different or being different. And even though I really enjoyed my childhood and I had a lot of great friends, I just couldn't really be myself. And I certainly didn't know what it meant to be Asian. And to be honest, at that time, I don't think I even wanted to be Asian. I just wanted to fit in. But luckily, I grew up, or kind of grew up, and I went to college. And the college that I went to had a great program where people could select a year and place to go study abroad. And so I selected actually Kyoto, Doshisha University in Kyoto, my junior year. So I decided to come out to Japan. And that year, I was 19 years old. It was one of my most transformative years of my life. But there was one moment that really stood out. It was the first time that I was going from my homestay family's house in southern Kyoto up to my university, which was based in northern Kyoto. And I remember walking to the station that day. I was really, really nervous. Part of it was because I knew I didn't want to miss the train, but a bigger part of it was actually because I was really apprehensive and self-conscious about getting on a train where I thought people would look at me because I was different. And I remember actually getting to the station and just barely making my train, jumping in. It was the middle of summer, so I was sweating. I had a big backpack, and all I could do was think about, find a seat, find a seat. So I found a seat, I slid into my seat, and I don't think I could actually look up for a few minutes. In fact, I think it wasn't until we got to the next station that I looked up and I was expecting people to be staring at me or laughing at me. But to my surprise, no one was even looking at me, and I didn't know what was going on. And then I looked back at them and I realized I kind of look like everyone else. And at that moment, I felt this huge mountain lift off my shoulders, and this wave of relief just came over me. Because for the first time in my life, I think, I felt like I was in a place where I looked like everyone else, a place that I fit in. I was just an ordinary guy. And so for the rest of that trip up to Imarigawa Station, it was the most liberating experience at that point in my life. And needless to say, the rest of that year was a great year. I loved studying in Kyoto, and I knew when I graduated from college, I was going to come back to Japan. And I did. So I graduated college in '94, and I got a job with the government and working in Kobe City. So that year was fantastic. Kobe is an amazing place. And I remember going home for Christmas that year, coming back in January of '95, super excited about another great year in Kobe. And then about a week later, the Kobe earthquake hit. And I vividly remember that day. I lived in an apartment complex, a danchi, that was 25 stories high. I was on the 23rd floor. And I had a really low platform bed. And I remember, all of a sudden, I was thrown out of my bed. CDs were crashing around my head. I heard plates and glasses falling in the kitchen. And I thought someone had broken into my house and was robbing me. But then I slowly started to notice that the building was swaying pretty violently. And instinctively, I actually reached up in between the tatami mats on the floor because I actually thought the building was going to fall over. When the building finally stopped shaking, I remember throwing on some jeans, putting 2 coats on because it was the middle of winter, grabbing my passport and looking for all the money that I could find, and then running out of my apartment down 23 floors. And I told myself, I'm not coming back into this apartment. And I'm probably leaving Japan. And eventually I did a couple months later. Now, fast forward 16 years to the beginning of this year. My company, IDEO, and I believed that Japan was at a tipping point, and we really saw signs that Japan was serious about change this time. And I was super excited about coming back to Japan with my family. So my wife and I packed up our house in California, and we moved to Tokyo with our 6-month-old son in February, about 3 months ago. And we were just getting settled into Tokyo. Yeah, this is great. And about a month later, the earthquake hit. And I actually was in a meeting with a couple of my colleagues here. And I remember I was the only one who went under the table. Everyone else was extremely calm. But I was under that table thinking to myself, not again. I can't believe this is happening. I just got here and it's been a month. Anyway, we were fine and we decided to walk home back to my house, which was in southern Shibuya. We're in northern Tokyo. And so it was about a 4-hour walk. And I remember thinking to myself as we started the walk home that for the sake of my son, I was thinking it might be better to go back to California, where we had our home, and I knew the company would support me to go back. But by the end of the 4 hours, and right when we got near to my house, I realized that there was no way I was going to leave Japan this time. Part of it was, yes, because I left Japan after the Kobe earthquake, but a bigger part of it was because of my son himself. My wife is Japanese, so my son is as well. And even though he was born in America, he would always be considered Asian, Japanese. And part of my personal goal has been always to help the future generations in Japan and Asia to think and work differently. And so now that took an even more special and personal meaning for me. And I also realized that I was finally in a position and with a company that could really help Japan rebuild and grow. Now, I know we're all here today greatly affected by the earthquake and pushing for change. And I'd like to just urge all of us to not wait for another earthquake, not always wait for just great events like this, and certainly not to wait for someone to tell us what to do or what not to do before we take action. Let's create our own events. Let's create our own opportunities every day. And in closing, I just wanted to say that I feel really honored to be able to talk in front of all of you. I know I'm not someone special, but I guess that's kind of the point. You don't have to be special to make a difference. All of us have great ideas. Some of them might be small, or we think might be small, like how do I become a better friend or a better father? Some of the ideas might be bigger, like how do I quit my company and let them feel good about it? Or how do I start a new company? But the thing to remember is it doesn't matter what you do. Whatever you do will make a difference. So, in closing, I'd just like to say, ask yourself every day, what can I do? What can I do to make a difference? Thank you.